So we should do the invocation, please.
Good evening, everyone. Father God, we just thank you. We give you the glory and the honor. We just thank you for another day. We thank you for keeping us, Father God. And we just ask, Lord Jesus, that you will give us wisdom and that we will flow in wisdom as we do the business of the city, that we will make wise decisions. We ask that you establish the work of our hands, Father God, and to help us be diligent in what we do. Father God, I ask that you will bless the citizens of Glenarden, the employees, and all who is affiliated with us. Father God, we ask for your peace. We invite your presence in this building, in this meeting. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Madam Clerk, would you do the roll call, please?
Councilwoman Jones,
Here.
Councilman Herring,
Here.
Councilman Hairston, Councilwoman Guillaume,
Here.
Councilwoman Fareed,
Here.
Vice President Ferguson,
Here.
President Curtis.
Here.
We have 6 in attendance.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda, please?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Jones, second.
Second.
Second by Councilman Guillaume. Discussion?
Yes, Council President. I'd like to go into a closed session to discuss personnel.
At when?
After the meeting. We do it all the
Oh.
time.
Oh, after the meeting?
After the meetings, yeah.
Well, if we have time, I don't know how long this is going to go, but that's fine with me.
Can we take I'm sorry, point of order, Council President. Can we take a consensus for that? Because I'm not sure what this personnel meeting is about. No background.
I sent an email out. Everybody has
Oh,
it.
concerning that matter. No, we don't have
Yes.
all the persons here to do that. I think
I
that
don't-
everybody should be involved, that's involved in that.
They can, the city manager, whoever can discuss it with her after we discuss it. She don't need to be here. I don't see why she need to be here for, you know? I mean, if you
Because
wanna
there's
get
two sides to every
the
story.
background- Yeah, it's two sides to every story. I understand that, but I'm just saying right now, I'm asking for this meeting. If somebody want to call and get her on board, you could try to do that, but I'm not going to sit here and yell back and forth with her because she's out of control. They always
Okay.
getting on me about being
Point
out
of
of control.
order,
She's
point of
not.
order. We're
Point of
talking
order.
personnel.
Yeah,
I haven't
point of
mentioned
order.
any name.
I understand,
Mr.
Councilman
Chief,
Harris. So this is what we'll do. We'll add it at the end, and all the members who do not wish to go into closed session can vote no. And if you want to, you can vote yes. And that's how we can settle it. All right. So we can add it to the bottom of the agenda. And Mr. Herring, was that all?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. In addition, just want to put on here that for public comments, it's also the constant yield rate. So you'll have, it's not on the agenda because we posted before letters came to your home, but due to a technical error, we had to, even though we advertised the constant yield in the paper for a week, we have to then send out letters. So if all the citizens who have joined tonight, when it's time for citizens comments, you are able to speak about the constant yield as well if you have any concerns or questions about that. So that's it. Just want to add that to the agenda as so citizens can know that they just don't have to speak about the budget, that they can also speak about the constant yield. So with that, any other discussion? Okay. Madam Clerk, the vote to accept the agenda with the amendments.
Sir, Councilwoman Jones,
Yes.
Councilman Herring,
Yes.
Councilman Hairston, just in case he came in late.
Yes, I think he came in.
Okay, I'll come back around. Councilwoman Guillaume,
Yes.
Councilwoman Fareed,
No.
Vice President Ferguson,
Yes.
President Curtis,
Yes.
Councilman Hairston. Okay, so we have 4 yes, 2 no's.
Okay. You said 4 yeses and 2 nos? I'm sorry, you're on mute.
Councilwoman Guillaume, can you repeat your answer, please?
I said yes.
Oh, you said yes. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that.
And Councilman Harrison can't unmute. He sent me a text saying he cannot unmute.
And point of order, I think Councilwoman Jones passed. So I think you need to come back to her. I don't know if I heard that
Okay,
correct.
I'm sorry, I did not hear that correctly then. Okay, so Councilwoman Jones.
And that'll be the second no.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Okay, it's Councilwoman Jones, no. Councilman Herring, yes. Councilwoman Guillaume, yes. Councilwoman Fareed, no. Vice President Ferguson, yes. President Curtis, yes. Is that correct, everyone?
Yes.
Okay, sorry if I didn't hear that right.
You need to get Harrison.
Yeah, I'm
And-
trying to. Can you see if you can do it on your end, Council Clerk, if you can unmute him?
Yes, sir.
Well, he said yes in the chat.
Yeah, because it on my end is saying ask him to unmute. He has to do it himself, but I've recorded it. Thank you. So we have 6 yes, no, I'm sorry, 5 yes, 2 no.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, we have the presentation of the budget by Mayor Cross. Mayor Cross.
Thank you, Council President, and good evening to the citizens of Glenarden, to the City Council. I bid you good evening. Today, we are going through our proposed budget for fiscal year 2023. I will start this off with the elephant in the room, which is the need for our real property taxes to be increased. From the mayor, City Council, City of Glenarden, citizens, we are proposing an increase to real property taxes. The property tax year beginning July 1st of 2022 has an estimated real property assembled base tax, which will increase 4.3% from $785,465,030 to $819,164,053. Now, the city of Glenarden being able to maintain the current tax rate, which is 0.3481 per $100 of assessment of real property tax revenues, will thereby increase 4.3%. Now, citizens, this means a total of $117,306 of new real property tax revenue for the city. This is allowing us to offset the increasing assessments. The real property tax will be reduced essentially from the county to 0.03338. That's the constant yield tax rate. We are looking at maintaining our 2022 rate, which will afford us to have to keep pace with the current needs of the city, and in continuing to adopt that real property tax rate of 0.3481 per $100 of assessment. So I thank you for allowing me to introduce that first. Secondly, it is my pleasure to bring this budget before you for your consideration. We have put in $500,000 worth of revenue into our overall top financial piece, which will allow us to really have a balanced budget this year, in the positive even, and allows us to add some significant new expenditures that will be able to support the quality of life that you have been requesting over the course of the last year. We are looking at a total revenue increase from the past 5 consecutive years. And as the city moves out from the COVID-19 pandemic, we can expect that this will be something, the individual tax revenue, the personal property tax revenue, and the hotel motel tax revenue should balance itself out as we coming into 2023, have us looking much better in 2024 with your support. Our infrastructure is aging. The backbone of what we will utilize this increase for is to be able to build a thriving economy to make Glenarden the highest quality of life for our residents. And that includes several things like the beautification strategy for police cars that are desperately in need right now. While our police cars look wonderful on the outside, these engines are taking a major beating, citizens. We will need to replace them to continue to ensure good policing and good order in our city. We have our code enforcement car, which currently, if I let the code enforcement tell me, whenever we get a rain down, they get to fill it inside the car. Well, that's no way to treat our people. Not only that, but it is time for us to update the inventory of vehicles, particularly as it pertains to the code enforcement. For beautification, I will tell you, we've put $10,000 against supporting a contract landscape to actually build the Glenarden that you have expected to see and have told me many times that it does not represent the Glenarden that you would like to see currently. So we are putting into this particular budget provisions to help us with our beautification strategy and outward-looking appeal. Overall, while the fiscal year 22 budget curtails some training and travel, this fiscal year 23 budget does restore that funding for training and travel. This training is essential to ensure that we have a quality workforce and administrative staff that is ready and adequately prepared to support you. As we look at the overall general fund revenues increasing $4,748,379 in fiscal year 22. We'll be increasing that to $5,491,318 in fiscal year 23. This includes revenues that were not previously budgeted for and transferred to cover the costs of many of our appropriately belonging to the general fund items. So the city has accomplished some significant achievements and have much to be proud of in FY22. We have several resolutions that have led to the passing of sidewalks and ADA ramp project to be completed throughout the city. We did complete the demolition of the Martin Luther King Center, and in its place will be recreation facilities for our seniors, but also senior equipment there for working out alongside our youth equipment that's already there at the Martin Luther King Center. We have also put together grant processes for the National Fitness Campaign, though we are looking at other avenues to secure the 7th Street part with kiddie furniture, kiddie equipment that will allow our children formerly on the 7th Street and also in the surrounding areas there in Ward 3, an opportunity to actually have a real playground. We have successfully planned 10 events supporting community engagement restoration and including putting new lighting on Fulton Avenue in a dead zone where we have now put opportunities for more safe, secure community. We revamped the city's media outreach. Marketing plan has increased the participation tremendously throughout COVID-19 by bringing in the Zoom platform and also updating our website and our website platforms to reach a more vast population that is growing within the city of Glenarden. We also are looking at bringing in an actual company to manage our media, web media processes alongside Ms. Ward, which will afford us ready communication in times of need and also maintaining that vibrant community feel. We continue to define Glenarden's sense of pride in our community, and we aspire this sense of belonging to an ever-evolving Prince George's County. Everyone with eyes can see around us that Prince George's is growing expeditiously. And as a result, The city itself heralds as the owner, if you will, of the flagship Wegmans and the Costco for Prince George's County. The city itself has to evolve in this coming fiscal year, and we are making strides to build Glenarden with a livable, inclusive, safe environment. So therefore, we are increasing our share for residents to be able to have the ability to obtain quality housing options with that as well. We are building on the city's strong traditions of leadership and delivering high level of quality service. This tax differential, the citizens, you will have to pay the real property tax and property tax to the city and the county. We continue to, again, address this, of course, as the elephant in the room, but note that it will come with significant living and municipality process improvements. As far as the administration, we have the 5-year strategic plan building for our American Rescue Plan money and the allocations of use. We've already put together resolutions through the council for stormwater waste management and also to support the homeowners associations in the revenue that they lost during the COVID-19 timeframe. Acquiring an emergency alert system is another key piece, which will ensure that we can reach you by telephone, email, text, as well as on the TV to allow a citywide single block, which will afford us to ensure that our residents of all ages will be secure in times of dire emergency. We are establishing a sustainable policy throughout the city, which includes electronic vehicles and charging stations at the municipal center. In this age of high gas prices, that is something that's going to pay huge dividends for the city, as well as we're replacing some of our older city vehicles with the EV cars and acquiring recycling stations for the municipal offices. When we look at HR, our human resources, this is another key contributor to why we would like to maintain our constant yield rate at 0.3481, is we are building in a 3% increase effective July 1st to our municipal budget, which incorporates a salary study to balance the present city salaries against those of other similar or like cities. Many of you know, and it's no secret, that the city of Glenarden traditionally has paid below many cities that are in our same or like district being. So we are looking at paying a competitive rate with a 3% increase. And again, effective 1 July, that is inclusive of the administrative salaries, including hiring new personnel and retaining our resources. So we will stop the brain drain that's been happening in our city by retaining our administrative personnel versus having to have this high turnover rate. That is the expectation with the 3% increase across the board. COVID-19 was one of the largest daunting challenges that any administration has had to encounter, and particularly the city of Glenarden did very well in coming through this with a diverse population and an ever expanding Prince George's County. What we are looking at is our sanitation policies within our city hall, and we're also looking at making it safe for us to return into our city hall for our city meetings, as well as ensure that we accomplish the necessary cleaning and enforcement of the masking policies. We have accomplished some truly magnificent achievements during a very dire time in our nation's history, in the world history, in fact, with COVID-19. These platforms that we have put in place, we're continuing to maintain as we are growing the methodology by which we communicate to our population as well. For our policing, we are happy to report that for the second year, we continue to be the 3rd safest city in the state of Maryland. Recently had an opportunity to visit Chief Aziz during the chief's report from the various police officers, and the city of Glenarden received some glowing praise from having done that. This is a distinguished achievement that our police force continues to result in strong leadership with successful implementation of anti-crime measures. We are committed to over 32% of our general fund budget to this outstanding public safety programs, 32%. In addition to body cameras to be worn by all officers, we are looking at equipment to replace and ensure the safety of our force. Regularly scheduled replacement of police vehicles represents 15% of that capital spending. Code enforcement works 6 days, Monday through Saturday per week. That means those cars are committed to strict code enforcement 6 days a week, enhancing the value of our homes and working hard to increase the overall aesthetics of our city. I do acknowledge that we do have need for modifications in our city codes, but I do want to make sure that it is made known that the budget does support an enhancement project for key components following the adaptation of a 5-year comprehensive plan to rewrite the city's codes in 2023, following up with a beautification assessment across the city. Development of codes rewrites will include our subdivisions, landscaping, sign codes, and especially new processes to ensure across the city that we have a comparable standard of upkeep. For public works, we, the administration, has been reacting to identified stormwater runoff. This stormwater runoff relief legislation that has already been put in place is captured in accordance with the City Council resolutions to expedite projects to support stormwater runoff. Total for fiscal year 23 proposed budget for public works is $525,533. This is reflecting a slight increase from fiscal year 22's budget of $515,121. Public works contract labor has been budgeted for FY23. The city's municipal grounds, as I stated earlier, includes $10,000 for landscaping, city grounds, and foliage upkeep. This contract labor covers a wide variety of needs, from cleaning up after storms to minor, non-minor facility repairs and projects coordination. Our Gold Room and Woodmore Town Center Community Center is based within this budget as well. And it's expected that there may be losses sustained in the return of revenues for the Gold Room. We have a portion and approximate $60,000 for subsidy to offset those losses. So as we continue to build better clarity moving forward, we will guide the comparisons prior years to this fiscal year communications, and that's what you'll see in this budget. As the budget is outlined from FY19 actual, 20 actual, 21 approved, and 22 proposed into 23. The collaboration between our elected officials and the staff is key to achieving the stated priorities and the goals is provided to the highest level of quality of service for you, our citizens of Glenarden. We expect that we will have a continuation of a robust economic growth, and the momentum that we're putting into this year's budget for FY23 will be the propellant to sustaining the development of our city. The city's budget has been developed with several key outcomes in mind, and the community as a whole can promise you that you can look forward to seeing some solid investments next year. The city is in great financial shape, and we are riding the wave of an economic growth that has started with our Woodmore Town Center. Essentially, the city is prepared for its financial future, and while it is our professional obligation to provide you a balanced budget, it is the first step in adopting this budget and this report that I'm making to you tonight that brings admiration upon the entire city. It is with these words that I present to you the FY23 proposed budget, and I am prepared for your questions.
Thank you, Mayor Cross. With that, we'll move into the question citizen comments portion of this meeting. Um, a few housekeeping rules that citizens have, 5 minutes to make their comments, ask their questions that's related to the constant yield rate or the FY23 proposed budget. If you could please raise your virtual hand, that'll give me some type of order to call people on. So I will call those names in order as I see Dr. Gibbs is already done. Raise your virtual hand. And then once I've called on you, you can put your virtual hand down. If you do not know how to raise your virtual hand, once all the virtual hands are called on, then if you can politely unmute your phone if you don't know how to raise your virtual hand, and then I will call on you once I've gotten through all of the virtual hands that have been raised. With that, we will start with Dr. Kai Gibbs. I hope I said that correctly.
Yes, that's correct. I don't actually have questions per se. I just have comments about it. I live in Woodmore Town Center. Increased taxes can be considered a reasonable burden for most property owners, but as a citizen of Glenarden, we're already paying our fair share, or Prince George's County, we're already paying our fair share of money back to our community in order to help finance many of those important projects that you mentioned, Mayor Cross. So I'm highly opposed to this increase. Additionally, the Fed just hit us with a higher interest rate, which will impact us on our day-to-day lives. And there's already talks about another increase within a month. So we can't continue to take these hits on a federal level and then get hit on our own from our own local municipalities. To me, it's just not reasonable burden as a homeowner in Glenarden. And although the concept of taxes being increased can make sense, there's also many issues related to this particular tax scheme. Just for starters, just my opinion, I don't really care about better or newer police cars, but increasing taxes can create a lower incentive to buy a home in this area and can deter investors. It could be harder for some people to get loans. It can actually lower the value of our existing properties. And high taxes can also lead to financing issues for people who are just, average income families. People may begin to relocate in order to save money that are related to the taxes in the area. And just different methods for determining the value of properties can lead to different outcomes. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents in there that I'm highly opposed to this, and I hope that you all vote against this increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gibbs. Okay, Mr. Spayo, I will circle back to you. Miss Alonda McDuffie.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would have to agree and piggyback off Dr. Gibbs in regards to the increase. I understand things cost money and it's an increase with everything, but like she stated, Prince George's County, we already pay the highest taxes as is. With code enforcement and the police, I don't feel that their quality of work even meets the standards of Glenarden residents. I don't know if they're being properly trained as far as code enforcement, but we always have to reach out in regards to when a job is done and to reinforce that they need to do better in their job. In regards to the police vehicles, I don't know about the charger station, but would that be accessible for the residents as well, or just for the people that work at the center? In addition, I'm sorry?
Accessible, madam.
Accessible to all residents?
Yeah, if you have an electric vehicle, you can plug into that as well.
Okay. And another question I have for you in regards to the Gold Room, what is that currently being used for, and why aren't they be able to rent that out anymore, being as though we have our own police department and that can generate revenue as well?
So the Gold Room is currently in use and is open for rental business. What we're looking at, the 60,000, is to recoup from the years of COVID-19, where the Gold Room wasn't able to be rented because the nation was on So currently, the Gold Room is available for rent. That 60,000 from the American Rescue Plan money just resurfaces. But as of right now, as we're coming out of COVID-19, mostly it is the population being comfortable with being in an environment where you have a mass of persons. So
The kids go to school every day, so I mean, I don't see the difference.
and I understand that. But that's the difference that we're seeing, that we have seen a lot of rentals for like repasses and as such, but the average birthday parties, you know, the nominal things that we would have seen, we haven't seen an increase in those. They've been
Yes.
maintaining themselves.
Okay, and another question I have for you in regards to the beautification of Glenarden, where exactly are you talking about in regards to infrastructure as well?
Around the municipal center grounds, ma'am. And if you'll notice the areas where we have city property mostly. So it doesn't help us much on the signage areas. And I know that was a big problem on the Bright Seat Road sign and the sign down by Barlow Road off of MD 704. So what we propose is to put more pressure on the state, because they have to come and make sure that they cut around the signage coming in and out of the city. But we're talking about around the municipal center and in the city property areas where we do have, say, the crepe myrtles, et cetera. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, and in regards to the sidewalks in the area, rebuilding those, is that for 2023? And how is that being done? Is it pretty much by blocks or based upon who needs it? Because all the sidewalks for the most part need to be redone.
Yes, ma'am. And we do actually have a contract for specified sidewalks. There's some, what did I put in, 17 critical areas that are in the proposal. And then beyond that, we have several other areas that we're going to address. We'll make sure that, well, we did a study on the sidewalks and where they needed the most care, particularly the sidewalks where rainwater has caused the sidewalks to wash away, or the buckling of the sidewalks, which is a tripping hazard and a danger to the community. Are those the first to be done?
Okay, and speed bumps, you had implement of speed bumps and traffic calming measures. Are these speed bump and where would they be placed?
Now, that is an awesome question. I thank you for that one. The speed bumps, we will have to do a study across the city to look at areas where speed has become a prevalent problem. We know that along our main areas, I know Tyrell has several speed bumps. I know Cousins has several speed bumps. But as we look at, say, Glenarden Parkway, we only have the 2 speed bumps there. But there are areas throughout our city that needs to be assessed. So we, as a city, would need to take an assessment of where these speed bumps need to be placed. We are in the process of actually acquiring support from a company to support us with more placement, better placement of our camera systems, the traffic calming measures for speed bumps, speed humps even, and radar systems that can be utilized for our traffic control. So our police officers can get those in their cars. So we're in the process of looking at companies that can support us in that capacity.
Okay, thank you for answering my questions. And in regards to the beautification, I think the municipal center, I think more focus needs to be on the actual residential area prior to adding to the center, because we live there as the citizens and we have to see that every day. I understand it's coming right off of a main road, but we need to focus on our residential area first, I believe. But thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McDuffie. Ms. Paulette Brooks.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I am in total agreement that I oppose the raising of taxes. We have quite a bit of seniors in the area that live here. And that putting that additional financial burden on them, I think is too much. We already pay to get repairs done to your home and your yards and whatever else you want to do as far as getting licenses and so forth from the city as well as the county. And I just think it's totally unfair, and it's not with the times that it is with COVID, just coming out of COVID, everything's going up. And you're adding this additional financial burden on everyone. Some people can't afford it, but I agree with both the two ladies that spoke before, Dr. and Alonda, that no, we should not be raising taxes. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Moving forward, I will, if you can ask all of your questions, I'm sure Mayor Cross will write them down as you're asking them. That way that you can have your full 5 minutes, and then the mayor can respond to all the questions that you have. I think that's the best approach of going forward, as opposed to asking a question, the mayor responds, ask a question, the mayor responds, because you lose track of your 5 minutes. I want to make sure you're able to get all of your questions out, and then she can give a proper response. So with that, I think, Ms. Carolyn Smallwood. Ms. Smallwood, are you there?
Hello,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I have 5 questions for the mayor. My
Okay.
first question, I think she said they was giving the HR person a 3% increase. Will this HR person become full-time? My second question is, how much money will be pulled from our savings account to balance the budget? My third question is, what will happen to these new programs after the ARPA money is gone? Where are the charging stations going to be? And we need to put in the budget to have a sandwich board placed on the corner of Fletcher and Church Street. We used to have a sandwich board there to announce the meetings, and now it's gone.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Smallwood. Mayor Cross? I'm sorry, was that all, Ms. Smallwood?
Those are my 5.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, former Councilwoman Smallwood. We'll definitely look into the sandwich boards for Fletcher and Church Street. That's an easy one. Charging station locations, currently the assessment would have to be taken, but on the grounds of the municipal center right there by the Gold Room is what we're anticipating. As far as the new proposed action items, that'll be after the ARPA money. So ARPA money comes with a deadline by 2026. So then what we won't be doing is we won't be continuing those processes as you stated. So what we're looking at is supporting through utilizing the American Rescue Plan money for what it was prepared for, which was to provide population citizens with opportunities to right size their current living standards conditions following COVID-19. So many of the proposed, like for example, the HOAs, supporting the HOAs, that is to support them as they're building and bringing in new residents throughout. So during COVID, of course, nobody was really buying houses. Nobody was really wanting to sell houses either. So as the market right sizes itself over the course of the next 2 years, then there wouldn't be an expectation that there would be a need to continue to offset the HOAs, because now you would have people back to work and you will have people being able to pay their regular HOA dues to support. As it pertains to pulling from 500,000, ma'am, to balance off the budget.
Did I hear 500,000? Okay,
And then a 3% increase for the HR personnel. I understand that she is part-time. I don't anticipate that will pull her into a full-time rank, but we'll discuss that with the city manager. But at this point, we are conducting a actual uh, evaluation of all of the payments that we're putting in our administration to make sure that we are paying a competitive rate across the county now. What we're really after is stopping the loss of many of our resources, like in our police forces, our code enforcement, public works. They have traditionally been paid below the standard of most of our neighbors right now, for example. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you.
can I have a follow-up question in reference to that $500,000?
Sure.
In reference to that $500,000 that you pulling out our savings to balance the budget, have you gone through the budget to see what fat you can cut out the budget before you borrow the money from our savings? Because I'm looked at the budget and there's a lot of fat that can come out that budget.
And yes, ma'am, we did take a look at it. The city treasurer, Mr. Stewart, has sat down with each individual department lead, as well as with myself and the city manager. And we have walked through the budget really intensely to see where we could pull out, and we have made some significant cuts across this budget. But there are just some things in the repairs and maintenance that we must do. Our communications has to improve. When it comes down to the cars, I know our citizen from earlier mentioned that, the cars wasn't a matter of importance, but if we want to continue to maintain ready assets, those resources have to be maintained and updated. Many of those vehicles are 10 years old. So as it pertains to that, contract services, what we noticed, just take our trash collection services. We've noticed an increase from goods trash collection. And that's just, as the citizen stated earlier, we're seeing a lot of increases, and the city is not held in reserve of those increases as well. So for those reasons, we have gone through, we have cut out some of the fat. We are maintaining our community engagement, because in this time of huge mental stresses following COVID-19, it is important that we bring forward a community spirit. So we have kept some of those types of things in there to ensure that we build the Glenarden spirit as well following this COVID-19. We're replacing some electrical breakers boxes there in the gold room. These are electrical issues that we have to maintain, else we lose our building. We're also looking at, like I said, trying to invest in F-250 truck plow for and spreader for public works. Vehicles like that are really limited right now, and I didn't know just how limited until we started doing the research, because they were just not, the supply chain process is affecting the building of vehicles of such standard. So that's kind of some of the stuff that's being put in. The AC heat repump replacement is due to make sure that we are prepared in that capacity. So those are some of the updates that this 500,000 is going to go a long ways towards helping us as a city. Thank you, ma'am, for your question.
Thank you, Ms. Smallwood. Next,
Stanley Pyle.
I'm sorry, say that again.
It's Espauyo, S-P-A-U-Y-O. Was you said up next?
Yes.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for everyone who's participated on the calls, as well as the residents. I have a quick question. I'm relatively new to the Glenarden area, and what I mean by that is I purchased my home at the Winmore Town Center in 2016. And since the time that I've been here, I've seen steadily more housing coming up. So I was kind of curious with the proposal that the city of Glenarden is making, did you take into consideration all the new housing? Like for example, I think across from Woodmore Town Center, they have that new development that they're building. It was going to be a mixed use, which is going to have businesses as well as apartments and townhouses and homes over there. So that I think they said there's an estimate over what, 600 or 700 homes over there. So with all these new homes being built in the area, would that not offset if you made the decrease? Would that still not offset what you're looking for in your budget with all these new houses coming into play?
Thank you, Citizen Spayo. And in fact, the area that you're speaking of is Woodmore Commons and Woodmore Overlook. While they're by us, they're not Glenarden. They're actually in Mitchellville. So, yes, they're not Glenarden.
Mayor Cross.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Thank you. Mr. Spayo, is that all?
You know, the only thing that I would say, I think I'm also kind of I'm not for the raise myself. I think in normal times, if all the expenses that we were not undergoing because of COVID was not around, we could sustain it. But even now with all the price increases, gas, food, everything, and on top of, you know, this, I just think it would be just not the right time to do it. Maybe in another time, because you know, as a person who've lived between Virginia and Prince George's County, I have to admit there is a lot of things that when you go on the other side of the bridge that you would get in terms of amenities, charging stations and all of these things that you would find on the Virginia side that you do not find on the Maryland side, which again, still surprised me. But again, I just think this is not the time. Maybe sometime later you guys could come up with a better time to do it, but I just don't think this is the time to do it. Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you, Mr. Spayo. Mr. Richard Arroyo Montgomery.
Hi, thank you, Council President. Good evening, council members, Ms. Cross, and citizens. I guess mine is more of a help me understand. In one sentence of this real property tax increase letter, I'm reading that the current constant yield rate is 4.3%. I'm sorry, is 0.3481. Is this the current rate that we're being taxed on now, the 3.481?
Correct.
Okay, so what's the increase?
So 1 second. Mayor Cross, if you want to take it, or Miss Barber, if you wanted to explain it, I'll give it to you, Mayor Cross.
Because I mean, and again, so I'm asking because I see that the current tax rate is 3.481, which was what it seems like that's what you're proposing to keep, I guess, because the second sentence says that it should be reduced, or the second paragraph states that it should be reduced to 0.338, but you're opting to stay with the 3.481, yet there's still new property tax revenues being generated as a result?
Question, Mr. Roy Montgomery. So the county will look at reducing that real property tax rate to 0.3338 as the new constant yield tax rate. We are correct when you state that 0.3481 is what you're currently paying. So that's what the current rate for FY22 is. The county is looking at making it 0.3338. But I will tell you that they're dropping it. They're more than likely going to tax it later. So whether they do it or we do it, chances are that's not going to be the standard. That's going to go back up. And that's been the current statement across all financial areas that we have looked at, multiple cities. all are looking at the county taking that tax rate back up. It's just not sustainable at the current, for even the county to drop it. So they'll drop it, but they're gonna come right back for the taxes, sir. Thank you
Okay,
for your question.
so am I misunderstanding? Is it the lower the constant yield rate, the higher the taxes?
So I don't know if this will help Mr. Richard Royal Montgomery. So the constant yield tax rate, so when they come out with the rate, they'll try to put the rate at, keep it steady at whatever you're paying now. And so with property values increasing, because that's what you're going to be paying your taxes on, in order to keep the same basically tax dollars that's coming out your pockets the same, they'll have to lower the rate. Now,
Got it.
if keeping the same rate of 3481, which we are charging now, because the property values in Prince George's County has increased, now tax you at that same rate is going to take more tax dollars out of your pocket. So it's the same rate. It's just that the value of the homes have increased, so that $250,000 home is now worth $300,000. So you take that same percentage versus 250 versus 300, you're paying more out of your pocket.
I understand that. Thank you. I forgot that our property value was going up. Okay, so I guess my last question would be that additional tax revenue of 117,000, that's pretty much citywide. That's all households within the city of Glenarden. So when we're looking at that, I mean, we're probably talking about dollars per home, right? I mean, it's not like we're looking at hundreds of dollars in increase. We're looking at probably a couple of dollars per home or something. I mean, but even so, I mean, that doesn't hurt anyone's pockets, a couple of dollars, but at the same token, as everyone has been saying, everything else is going up around this. And I mean, I think if we could stay where we are, or reduce it to 0.3338. I mean, if we can maintain it at that level, I mean, I think that would be great overall, since, we do have, there's always a concern about our senior citizens, so we have to consider our senior citizens as well, who on a fixed income and probably can't afford just to pay a couple dollars more. I mean, some of us can, some of us can't. The city is always talking about our seniors and looking out for seniors. And I mean, and I think this would be the perfect time to demonstrate that we are all about our seniors. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you for the clarification on the yield. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Atan Mohammed. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, it's Atan Mohammed. How are you?
Atan, sorry. Thank you. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's funny that the gentleman before us mentioned seniors. I am the son of a resident of Glenarden. My dad, Michael Gaskins, stays there. He's on a fixed income as well. Obviously, the letter in the mail in regards to the tax increase, the property tax increase was a little concerning, more than a little concerning. So obviously, he wanted to make certain, he's listening, but he wanted to make certain that we had maybe some alternatives to be able to look at that may be able to offset. I know the city's expenses are increasing. Inflation has hit everybody really heavily, especially in regards to the situations where people who have a limited and set income that stays the same and the expenses are rising, that can lead to a really, really traumatic circumstance. Especially when you may have some people who depend on medication and dependent on eating as opposed to property taxes. I wanted to be able to present a couple of options to Madam Mayor and see what her thoughts are. DC has done bag taxes that have been used to be able to bring in extra income by utilizing the traffic and the commerce from local stores, especially during the summer. There was a lot of, more traffic in stores since COVID is lessened. Maybe that's an opportunity to be able to offset some of the income utilizing the businesses, which are in Glenard, and some of which are very substantial, to be able to offset some of the burden of the property tax, and perhaps maybe block grants from the state or federal government. Remember hearing that Biden had passed a bill in regards to grants for infrastructure improvements. I'm not certain whether or not the mayor has had an opportunity to be able to reach out to resources with the state Maryland Department of Commerce or the correlating group in Prince George's County, or maybe some of the property or tax increases potentially in regards to sales tax, especially with the gas situation. Passing additional expense onto the regular citizen could be really, really detrimental. I know she has a tough job on her head to be able to manage the circumstances, but I wanted to see if some of those ideas were things she thinks may be doable to help with a potential decrease or at least an offset for some of these extra costs. Thank you. Oh, and we have Costco's and Wegmans. These are very large businesses. Maybe they have either direct social programs that they can be able to use to contribute to the coffers of the citizens. An out and out increase maybe in their overall tax situation. Maybe that's a situation that can be able to be utilized, or maybe even industrial bonds potentially. But those are just some of my ideas, Madam Mayor. I'm looking forward to your comments.
Thank you so much, sir. And we have looked at some of those national programs as well. And I just wanted to make sure I codified the number here. So we are looking at the difference between, and thank you everyone for your comments. And I thank you for acknowledging your father and living in the city. We appreciate that. 0.03481, which is currently where we're at. Property taxes go up. We're looking at, say we're looking at 1,200 as an increase in your property taxes based on the advancements, if you will, in the property value across our city, then you're really looking at 17 cents, sir. That's the number. So, I mean, I don't want to cause any economic tragedy, but that's 17 cents. Now, if I'm looking at 12,000, that's $1.68.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't want to minimize it, but I do want to acknowledge that there is some growth that is happening in our city, that the maintaining the constant yield rate where we are at the 0.3481, excuse me, on every $100 of assessment, it could be really beneficial to improving the quality of life overall for our citizens. And we're talking about the entire community. And we're watching and we are building programs to care for. In fact, we have legislation in place that has been proposed to support our citizens that may have an additional need for finances based on COVID-19. As we look at July, where many citizens that may have taken the tax deferment program, those are going to come due. So we're trying to put provisions in place with the ARPA money, the American Rescue Plan money, that could offset some of those injuries that are coming their way. And I will tell you, I've had a couple of citizens that have called on that money already. So we are looking forward beyond just this constant yield tax rate, but I wanted to put those numbers into perspective. Okay. And I thank you so much for allowing me to codify that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad. Mr. Anthony Foster.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Council President, Mayor Cross, and everyone on the call. I believe the last comments from Mayor Cross actually was touching upon what I was about to share or ask. It is important, I believe, to kind of put the tax increase into context, into kind of what does it mean in real dollars to the citizens in Glenarden? You know, when I'll be honest with you, yes, I hear what people are saying about tax increases, and my mind automatically went to, oh my God, I'm gonna pay hundreds of thousands of dollars more taxes. But then when I think about it, I say, well, what is the actual difference between what I'm paying now and what is being proposed by the city? And so is it like $1 or $2 increase? Okay, I can absorb that. You know, I do recognize that our citizens, you know, live on fixed incomes. I get that. But to your point, Mayor Cross, there are programs out there that can maybe offset that. So I think in hindsight, a presentation would have been useful to kind of say, okay, this is what you're paying now. This is what you'll be paying next year if this tax goes up to whatever percentage. And then people will say, okay, well, I'm just paying $2 more. You know, why am I making, or less than that? You know, why am I making a big fuss about this tax increase? Because relative, it's just basically accounting for the expense of increased goods and services that you guys have to foot. You know, I do hear that piece because as condo board president here at Woodmore Town Center and as a part of the master board, things are going up. So we have to pay for it somehow. And, you know, I'm not like saying I like tax increases, but I do recognize that we have to get the money somehow. And so I believe, Mayor Cross, if you were to be able to kind of put that into context and explain, okay, for $1 more increase in your tax bill, we're going to get new vehicles. We're going to get beautification in our neighborhoods. We're going to get that. And that's like, okay, I can absorb that more better, as opposed to just getting a blanket. We're going to increase your taxes, and then I'm in panic mode, as most people probably are, and that's why we're on this call. So, but I appreciate everyone hearing me out. Appreciate council listening to my recommendations or concerns, but I appreciate your work behind the scenes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Are there any other comments, questions?
Yes.
I'm sorry, can
I'm
you state your
here.
name, please? Yes, can you state your name, please?
Lucas.
Barbara, Miss Lucas?
Yes, Barbara
You have
Lucas.
you have the floor, Miss Lucas.
Okay, thank you for having this meeting, and it's been very interesting. Yes, I am panicking about the budget, but I see other people are, so I'll leave that to the next people. I have a couple of things I want to. Do you want me to give you all my points, and they're all short, or do one and just? I mean, because I can run down the list and then you can just address them.
Yes, ma'am. If you could run
So
down the
first one
list.
is-
Yes.
Okay, the first one is just my comment that I hope that we can go back to in-person meetings. I mean, I know people still freaked out about COVID, but we got to move on. And these telephone meetings are helpful, but it's nothing like sitting in the room and looking at the person that's speaking, or, you know, because I keep looking out the window watching the birds fly by, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? So I just hope we can have meetings again at some point. I also want to ask you about, I heard that you're going to do a study talking about the speed bumps and traffic cameras. So please include McLean Avenue, because we're on this dead-end street, and I can't tell you how many times our cars come flying up the street, and I'm just so afraid somebody's going to have a terrible accident or somebody's kid's going to get hurt. And Martin Luther King for sure. I know those people are going 70, 75 miles an hour. So that's why we keep having all these accidents, because they're just, I don't know where they're all going. They're just in a hurry. And so that is a need, and I know that you know that. Village in the Woods Apartments, I happened to go over there the other day, and isn't that a code enforcement? I mean, a code violation? Is that a part of Glenarden? Because, you know, they had that fire. It's still it looks like it's gonna fall down. It's smelly, and I'm just wondering about that. The Landover Mall lot, I still don't understand why that big beautiful mall is gone and why it's just sitting there going to waste. That should be some money from somewhere. The rec center, the one that you're gonna rebuild, thank you. Our kids need something really bad because teenagers are just restless. You know, the rec center up the street, just like the Wayne Curry Center, they're beautiful facilities, but nothing's free. Everything costs a lot of money. We need to find something for these kids to do besides sitting up there drinking, smoking pot, and holding up and breaking up the toys and the swings and stuff so little kids can't even get on the playground. I always go up there with mine because you have to fight to get them a swing because the big kids are just sitting on there laughing, talking, and I mean, it's not for them. But all black kids don't want to play basketball. We need to let them go in the rec center and play their little games or just do some kind of educational stuff. There's always stuff for senior citizens and adults, but we're just not putting enough into our kids, and that's why they're getting into so much trouble. At the last meeting, I thought I heard them say that policemen are driving their vehicles home at night. And I was just wondering why, because the police department is closed. So, I mean, I don't know why they would need to drive their vehicles home because then that's tax money that we could be saving. And I think that's all I had.
Thank you, Ms. Lucas.
That was a lot, wasn't it?
You know what? We hear you. We appreciate your comments and concerns and questions.
And I have some answers, if it's okay, Council President.
Mayor Cross?
Thank you. Thank you again, Ms. Lucas, for those questions and concerns. So the police department, I'll take that last question, concern. There has been a lot of discussion about whether or not they should or should not drive those cars home. One thing I will say, with the police driving those cars, what you do have is a constant ready force. So when they're in our vehicles, they're in our uniforms, they're essentially eligible to be policing and protecting our streets. So that's one benefit by having those policemen in those cars, that if they're not on duty because they have that car, they are to action responsibly. For the in-person meetings.
One second, Miss Lucas.
Okay.
So for the in-person meetings, yes, we hear you on that. You know, there are alternatives. We could, you know, utilize the expansion of the Go Room to bring citizens in there. I will leave that particular piece to the City Council, as that is their meeting. But for McLean Avenue, I understand, I've taken a note for that. As far as code enforcement, Landover Mall is not Glenarden, nor do we have any other than a community say so for, and we are complaining to the county against, you know, what is consistently looking poor up on our Prince George's, beautiful Prince George's. So we are making a statement to the county on that behalf, but as far as the city, it's not our property. The annexation process is what many citizens, well, you yourself, and let's see, I took a note here from another citizen earlier, was talking about, you know, the local areas. Spaniel was talking about the local surrounding area. Annexation is what you're asking the city to do, is to try and annex those areas. To do that, it's really a negotiation with the citizens on the ground and also the owners of that particular land. And it would be a negotiation process to, with tax revenue for owners of land and for citizens, they would give up their 100% policing care by the county and essentially acclimate to Glenarden's way of living and life and being protected by our police officers and being taken care of by our code enforcement and public works. So it's a negotiation. Yes, ma'am. In the rec center. Yes, ma'am. In the rec center, thank you for those comments, and we're working expeditiously to put processes in place and property in place on Martin Luther King. As well, we have been looking at playground equipment for, like I said, 7th Street Park, because children are an impact resource in our community. And we are building a better and more progressive Glenarden through the eyes of our children. Thank you so much for your question.
Yes, yes, very good, thank you.
Ms. Lucas, do you have anything
That's
else?
it for me. No, that
All
was
right.
good, thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Mr. Velasquez.
Yes, good evening, everybody, and thank you for allowing me to ask this question. So like the gentleman before asked, in trying to read this proposed notice, I kind of think that in trying to understand these numbers, I'm trying to make heads or tails of what it is that this notice of the proposed real estate tax is really saying, as the numbers are kind of all over the place. So it looks like in one paragraph, we say something to the effect of that our real property assessable base has gone up to the tune of like $33.6 million. In the next paragraph, it looks like what I understand is that the city of Glenarden is looking to accrue an additional $117,000 in tax revenue. But when you look at these at the percentages, it doesn't seem to make sense to get to that number. So what truly is the per dollar or impact to the average constituent here of the city of Glenarden? Because I can't seem to make heads or tails as the way these numbers are written in this document. What is it that the city of Glenarden is trying to do? Are you guys trying to raise an additional $117,000?
Mayor Cross.
So it does, that's what it equals if we maintain our constant tax yield at the 3.3481 per $100, there would be an actual gain. Amidst the taxes increased already, there would be an actual gain of $117,306 of new real property tax revenues into the city. Now, as it pertains to the second part of your question, and I will say, citizens, excuse us for not putting in a sample. I too am a visual learner, and we should have put a sample in here of, okay, so if you have an increase of $1,200 in your taxes, then what you're essentially looking at by the numbers for every $1 is 0.00014 on every $1. So you're not really even a full penny on every $1. So if you take that increase of 1,200, then you're essentially looking at 17 cents, sir.
So if I may follow up, Ms. Mayor Cross, just so I can truly understand you, because I too am new to the community here. I just moved here in September of 2021. So do I infer from the way you're answering the question that the average property owner in the city of Glenarden is looking at a proposed increase of real estate taxes to the tune of $1,200 per year?
No, sir, that's based on the property value itself. So take Woodmore Town Center at Glenarden, property values are, expeditiously higher than, say, our property values in Ward 1. So it'll be based on your real property value that you would get from your tax statement each, presentation. Mr. Stewart, did you need to speak in on this, sir?
Yes, I would like to contribute to this. Hi, this is Beam Stewart, the treasurer of the city of Glenarden. What I wanted to explain to everyone that the taxes that you pay for Glen Arden for last year will only go up by 4.3%. So therefore, if your home is valued at $150,000, the difference you'll pay in taxes for this increase will be $22. At $200,000, the difference is $29. At $270,000, you'll be paying an additional $40. At $400,000, you'll be paying approximately $60 more. So those are, it's the increment in increase based on the value of the assessment of your property will go up approximately 4.3%.
So, Mr. Stewart, I appreciate that. And I would just suggest very strongly to City Council and the mayor in terms of communication, if that type of matrix was part of your communication, I think it would make it a lot easier for the average layperson to kind of understand what it is that the city of Glen Arden is asking its citizens to bear. Because as clearly you've been hearing all along, right, given everyone's costs, right, we all understand everyone's cost is going up. And I think the average homeowner or property owner, let me say it that way, is really trying to understand, well, I need to contribute to the community that I live in. And if I could understand the depth of my new revised contribution, it would be easier for me to either swallow the increase or put up a stiff argument as to why it shouldn't be, and ask the city of Glen Arden to examine its operations, as clearly was asked also earlier. Is there not the potential to achieve cost savings, as all of us are now struggling with trying to find cost savings, whether you live in Woodmore or whether you live in Ward number 1. I would think that the city of Glen Arden would be or should be in the same boat as we all are. Just a suggestion. And I appreciate everyone's response to my question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Velasquez. And for citizens, once you've had your opportunity to speak and you have finished, for time's sake, we won't circle back for additional comments. If you do have additional comments and you've already spoken, please feel free to email us. We welcome your comments, your questions, and concerns. But at this time, we're not circling back to citizens who already had an opportunity to speak. So at this time, if there are any additional citizens who would like to comment on the budget or the constant yield, the floor is yours. Just raise your virtual hand or politely mute yourself and I will call on you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Can you state your name, please?
My name is Ms. Harrison, and what I want to know is, will this be a question when we vote in July? Will this be on the ballot where the citizens can vote whether they want this or not?
No, no, ma'am. This will not be on the ballot. Do you have any other questions or comments?
I'm opposed to the increase. I've heard everything, and I just think it, I am a senior citizen, as I've heard previously people say, and fixed income. And with everything going up, I mean, gas and food and everything, I wonder, is this the proper time? How really necessary is this? I mean, it's, everybody is stretching, their budget now. And now the tax increase on top of everything else.
Thank you,
But
ma'am.
anyway, that's my comment.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your comment.
Hello, Councilman and Mayor.
One second. Ms. Jackson?
Yes, hello,
Okay.
how's everyone doing this evening?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I would like to double back on the speed bumps and speed cameras. I'm on Glenarden Parkway, right up the street from the Municipal Center. There has been several accidents on our street. Every last one of my neighbors, including us, have had our cars hit. When cars are hit or in our street, on that street, they barely clean up the glass. We have glass in our driveways and I'm really upset about that. And I think we need another camera or we need speed bumps because there's been too many car accidents on our street.
Mayor Cross.
Thank you for the concern, Ms. Jackson, and I acknowledge that just last week, I was at the Municipal Center and upon leaving, there was a car flipped upside down on 704. And I don't know how on as low of speed as 704, you get to an area where you flip your car upside down. So you're absolutely correct. We are looking into companies that could help us with evaluating those traffic high traveled areas to do the appropriate assessment, to put in more cameras if necessary with the new laws there in Annapolis that allows us to put in cameras even within school district areas where before we had to have a certain spacing away from the school grounds. So with those laws being relaxed, it is time for us to increase our traffic calming measures throughout our city. And we're going to get after it. We're going to promise you that. And we're going to definitely look at putting into our police cars, radar systems to where they can be more effective. And not only that, but actually coming after, the payments for those violators of the speed on particularly Glenarden Parkway, at 1.22 miles. It shouldn't be a racetrack. So I thank you for those comments, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Are there any other comments from citizens, questions, concerns? Okay.
Council President, if I may.
Mayor Cross.
There were comments there in the chat, so I was just making sure that I acknowledge that I read those comments and have taken notes on those comments. And I didn't know if Chief Bryant wanted to speak to the policing. Particularly, there was a lot of questions from the citizens on the police vehicles and security, sir.
Good evening, everyone. How you doing? Chief Bryant, the newly appointed chief of the Glenarden Police Department. I'll be in my second month on the 18th of this month. Yes, citizens, in reference to some of the comments in reference to the vehicles that we operate, and coming in and examining the fleet, I've noticed that we had vehicles that were over 10 years old, 5 in particularly that's past the age. And what it does is it constitutes a problem for the officers, the safety of the citizens, officers responding to calls, and their overall safety. For example, if these officers are responding to a call in one of those vehicles, and because of the vehicle age and effectiveness, that vehicle happen to lose control, or for example, one of the tie rods come loose because it's old, that can cause an accident, which can cause injury, death, and a liability on the city itself, and death of the officer or the citizen involved. So those are some of the things we're looking at. That's why the president comes out with these different police funds and so forth, And that's some of the reasons why, because of that, because of liabilities and so forth. And the vehicles are part of the equipment, part of the equipment that officers need to be effective to do their jobs. Another example, I understand one lady asked, I can't remember her name, but she's like, can officers leave their vehicles at home or park them and come to work and get those vehicles? And I explained that the other day. For example, if we have officers recently we've been having a lot of active shooters. So for example, if we have an active shooter and we have officers that I have to call in to come in to work because of the active shooter, and in an attempt to get mutual aid, these officers have to come in their personal vehicles, come to the station, park their vehicle, get in the police vehicle, then respond to that scene. That time we actually losing countless minutes that can cause countless numbers of lives to be in jeopardy. Another thing is with these officers, they have different duties and responsibilities. When they make lockups and stuff, they have to be at court. Sometimes they got to go straight from home and go to court because they had a late arrest and they worked a midnight tour duty. So if they get off at 6 a.m, they'll have to drive their personal vehicle home, come all the way back to the police vehicle and take it to work. And the last example will be if these officers are ordered in by me or anything for an active shooter and they come in their personal vehicle and they have an accident because they're ordered in by me, guess who's liable? The city and me. I can also be held for vicarious liability in a situation like that. So there are a number of different reasons why we need the police vehicles and equipment to be operable, up to date, and why they need these vehicles for certain things, because it's a tool that they do need to do their jobs. Just like a secretary need a laptop or need a computer. That's one of the tools we need. We need, just like we need our gun to do our job, and other equipment. So those are some of the things. And once we go back to community meetings and so forth, we'd be more than happy to take some of the citizens on ride-alongs. You can come along, I can come to your house and we can discuss some of these things. And but I'm working on actually, having a ride-along program so the citizens can see firsthand exactly what we do, and so they can have a better understanding and why we do what we do. And they can have better understanding, because it's a lot of questions out there, but until you actually understand exactly what we do, you have those type of questions. So I welcome them, and thank you all.
Thank you, Chief Bryant. Any other comments, questions relating to the budget or constant yield rate? Okay, hearing none, we'll move into.
Point of order, Mr. President. We have got to vote on that constant yield tax rate. You have to vote tonight.
Are we allowed to vote at a budget hearing?
You're allowed to vote at the public hearing because it's also a public hearing for the constant yield tax rate, and the state law requires you to either vote tonight or state the date and time and place where you will vote.
Okay.
So we don't have any time left. Because we got to have it by tomorrow.
Okay. That's fine. Is there a motion to bring this to the floor to a vote?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Herring, second, I'll take Councilman Hairston. Any discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk.
And Mr. President, could you announce which rate we're voting on?
Okay, thank you. We are voting on keeping the rate proposed by Mayor Cross at 0.3481. Okay, any other discussion? Okay. Council Clerk?
Councilwoman Jones?
Okay, so it was said in one of our meetings that if we don't take the 0.3481, that the county would come in and tax the citizens anyway. I don't have any documentation of that, only something hearsay as to what I heard. So at this juncture, listening to the citizens, no.
Thank you. Councilman Herring,
Yes.
Councilman Hairston,
Abstain.
Councilwoman Guillaume,
Abstain.
Councilwoman Fareed,
No.
Vice President Ferguson,
No.
President Curtis.
Pass for a second.
Okay.
I think there's nobody else to go back to, huh? It's just me.
Council President, may I?
Ms. Guillaume.
So I do want to go back to a comment that Council Member Jones just mentioned. And I don't want to take up more time here, but I did also hear the same thing about if we didn't keep the constant yield at the rate that it was, then which would, raise the taxes, then Prince George's County would still raise taxes and the benefits would go to Prince George's County and not Glenarden. That's what I kind of heard. So if that's the case, I don't know if it was Councilman Herring who said it. I just remember there was back and forth at the time between, for explanation between Councilman Herring and Councilwoman Fareed, and I don't recall which one said it. But if it was either one of you, can somebody, for the citizens who are on this call, can somebody explain that part again?
Yes, I actually said it.
Okay.
And basically what it is, Prince George's County is under TRIM, which restricts the amount of taxes property taxes that the county can levy on any homeowner. So if you ever look at the tax rate for all the municipalities, you'll see a different tax rate for every municipality from the county. Because what they do is they look at what you're taxing, and then that allows them to set their tax rate, which won't exceed that. I think it's like 1% or something like that. So that's basically what it is. So they're going to adjust the tax rate. They will adjust our tax rate, and I guarantee you that. They will adjust the tax rate a little higher than what it is this year, because they're going to get whatever money they need to get. And everybody call it, it's called the piggyback tax. And if you ever look at the constant yield chart, you will see the tax that the county charges various municipalities across the board. Some municipalities that have a high tax rate have a lower county tax rate than we do, but yet their income is much higher. So, I mean, it's going to come out one way or the other. So that's what I'm saying. I'd rather have the money stay in the city. Also, if we roll that tax rate back again for a second year, we did it the first year. And remember, the council did not increase taxes in last year. And, that was $70,000. But I guarantee you, if you look at your tax bill, you will see that your county taxes went up. This year, we're going to, if we roll it back again, we'll lose $117,000. That means that the budget has to be cut. That's been proposed by the mayor by $117,000. Factor into that we're borrowing $500,000 from our savings to balance the budget. So you're looking at almost $620,000 of money that we actually do not have. Our budget, we are not running now on tax dollars. We're running on savings. That's a lot of money. So eventually either you're gonna have to start cutting positions because the savings are going to be gone, or you're going to have to raise taxes even higher further down the line. So, I mean, that's it's just that simple, I mean, everybody complains about the piggyback tax in Prince George's County because they're always trying to levy that additional money from the municipalities that, when we have the lowest tax rate. Glenarden has, I think, the third lowest tax rate of all the municipalities in Prince George's County. So we very seldom, when I got on the council, the tax rate was 26 cents. That was 18 years ago. Now it's 34. So.
Thank you, Councilman Harris.
You're welcome.
I'll go
Thank you,
to,
Councilman Harris.
I'm sorry, were you finished, Councilwoman Gill?
No, I was just thinking, I was just saying thank you to Councilman Herring, sorry.
Okay. I'll go to Councilwoman Ferguson and then Ms. Fareed, Councilwoman Fareed.
And this is just formality. Councilman Herring, maybe help me with this. With that explanation said, and the vote not being finalized, can I change my vote?
Change your vote until the council president calls for the vote, which is, he hasn't called, until the clerk says what the count is, you can still change your vote at any time.
Say that again.
As long as the council clerk hasn't called out what the final vote was, you can still change your vote.
Okay.
She hasn't called out the final vote, so.
Well,
If she did, then you would have to ask for reconsideration.
I would like to do that if it's okay, Council President.
Yes, ma'am.
Sure.
Council President?
Sure.
Oh, I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Okay, with that said, I kind of forgot about that, but I do know that the county will take it either way. So I want to, my vote would be yes. Because I think that it would be lower than what the county would assess.
It's been noted. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Fareed.
Yes, thank you, Council President. I was just wanting to say that I know we discussed this last week and we have the understanding of why the constant rate maintaining it from the previous year would yield the additional revenue to help us. But I think there are a couple of things that are a little bit out of order in how we're doing this. Typically, we should be doing the budget first and combing through that budget and adopting the budget before we have this rate accepted. My concern is that we're going to have to make a lot of adjustments because to Councilman Herring's point, not only are we're just kind of only getting $117,000 from this increase. The bigger issue is that we're taking $500,000 out of the reserves. And so for me, I think we would be okay with not having that 117,000, which is why I'm saying I don't think we should maintain the constant yield. I think what we need to look at is how we can reduce to the point where we're not coming out of reserves, so that at least next year when we're coming upon this, we would have looked at the budget, looked at all the opportunities we have to reduce costs, and look at where we really need to increase and how much we need to increase and how that corresponds to an increased tax rate, so that we can really justify what we're increasing it now to. I feel like if we increase this $117,000, it's nice, but it really is, to, again, Councilman Herring's point, $617,000. So what are we going to do in order to manage that going forward? And I'd rather kind of forego that $117,000 this year, take it out of the budget, and then figure out how we're going to reduce it going forward. And if we can't, again, how we're going to be able to substantiate the increase that we're going to need to make. If the county is going to increase the tax, then we need to be advocating to make sure that we get the proper commensurate benefits of that increase in taxes.
Thank you, Councilwoman Fareed. I'm sorry, Mayor Cross, did you want to comment on?
Yes, just a piece of clarification. I believe Councilman Herring was saying without the
So point of order, Council President and Madam Mayor, Madam Mayor, I do want to hear from you just 1 second. Are we allowed to do that while we're voting? Because I know Council is discussing. I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know if you what the process is. I just wanted to say that.
Okay. All right. Well, Mayor Cross, we'll come back to you since we're in the middle of a motion. And so with that, I think everybody has voted except for me. Well, I don't think we have the votes anyway, but I will say that, we are in an interesting position. We're at the last minute trying to do all these things to push things through. And I think if we can be more timely with the budget to be able to go through things, comb through the budget and see, how we could better structure the budget that works for the city and doing so at what rate, constant yield rate, that will be most effective for our citizens. I think that's the best way to move forward, as opposed to, not even having a solid budget that we've, finalized and ready to vote on, and trying to pass a constant yield rate where we just don't know. On one hand, there are a lot of things that are costs that are increasing. For example, the Good Trash Company, I think the cost for that has increased by something ridiculous, like 63%. And we are faced with those costs and how we're going to pay for those costs. Like any other citizen, because I will have to pay the tax too. I don't want my taxes increase, but I do understand that the cost of everything is going up. And we as a city will have to find that money somewhere. So with that, I am going to say no, only because it's at the last minute and I'm unsure of just all the implications of where this is going to go. I think that we can trim the budget. I think that if we're going to forego $117,000, we can forego $117,000 and trim the budget and then be in better position next year to make a better informed decision of where we go from here.
So,
So
Mr.
with
President,
that,
may I ask a question before we do adjourn? I do want to ask this question because I don't think everybody's looking at this quite clearly. As you
Okay.
said, the trash company just taking trash up from $407,000 a year to $750,000. Now, let's say $117,000. Either we're gonna put that $117,000 toward trash, or we're gonna take up the trash assessment, which has been at $236 for almost 15 years. So how are we going to pay this trash assessment? I mean, the trash increase. Right now, we assess the citizens with this $236 assessment, which has not gone up. The trash has been going up constantly every year, and we have not taken up that assessment yet. So we're still going to have to take up that assessment to meet that $750,000 cost for trash pickup. So I would rather, take the increase of $117,000 versus a lump sum across the board of an assessment for trash. Right now it's $236. We don't know what that's going to have to go to. It may have to go up to $400. That's a lot of money for a person to pay every year for trash pickup, because that's quite a bit. That's quite a bit for what, 2,000 homes. We haven't even factored that in. So I mean, you're going to look at it. You're going to get hit either way. Either you're going to get the trash pickup, or you're not. Either we're going to increase the taxes that go toward that increase. That increase is astronomical, and people need to know that's the only bid we got for trash pickup.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only one we got. So we ain't got an option. Either we don't do trash, or we just, or we, like I said, you run them taxes. You can't cut the budget for so much, because eventually our biggest expense is personnel. So if you're ready to fire police officers, so be it. That's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. Our budget is already lean. Glenarm's budget has always been lean. We really don't have a lot of fat in it, because we've always kept our rate low, and you can tell that it's lean because we're borrowing $500,000 from savings. So when it's all said and done, you're going to have to pay it one way or the other, or somebody's going to have to get laid off, because we cannot afford. Let's see, okay, $500,000 from the bank. $500,000 from savings. Cut the budget by $117,000 for the taxes that we're not going to get, and we're going to have almost a $250,000 increase in trash. So we're looking at close to what, $1 million in additional expenses, and we're going to give the county $117,000, which we sorely need right now. know what? More power to you. I hate to have to balance this budget because somebody going home real quick, real fast. But I just wanted to put that out there.
So, Mr. Herring, and I don't want to scare anybody of losing their jobs. This isn't necessarily the appropriate venue to do that. But I will say that part of the reason why I said that is because, yeah, in any other year, I would have said yes. But the fact that we do have ARPA funding and we have chose to use it as a replacement for revenue is an opportunity to give our citizens a relief for a year. Everything has gone up. Yeah, I went to the grocery store and paid $53, which I would have paid maybe $30 for, a few months ago. And so I know that $30 isn't a lot, and maybe $60 isn't a lot to some people, but we received that $4-point-something million to really help our citizens. So why not use it this year to help our citizens? We won't have to cut anything. And actually, the whole budget will be revamped anyway, because we can actually have a huge surplus this year if we use ARPA money in the way it was intended to be used, which is a revenue loss. We could use to pay salaries, use to do anything, and have a surplus from our tax dollars, the way I understood it. And so if we wanted to do that and give our citizens a relief this year, while we have that buffer from the ARPA funds, that's the rationale behind my vote. And then next year, if we needed to, if things subside and we needed to do the increase next year, making a more informed decision, then I'd rather that than trying to just push it through now when we have a cushion where we could provide relief for our citizens, not have them take on the brunt of increases all across the board, federal, state, county, city, and the grocery store.
Mr. President,
So that was
what
my
you got to
rationale.
realize, Mr. President, though, is that in municipal government, you got to have a sustaining revenue stream when you start using grant money for salaries. That's not a good idea because you won't have that all the time. So revenues, salary increases, all of these salary increases, everything have to be maintained by a constant revenue stream. So when you don't have the grant money and you got to maintain those salaries, you're going to have to take the salaries, you have to take the taxes up almost double to just get, you're going from 3.4 to probably 3.8 to 4%, just to meet the demand of your current budget, because you're relying on money that's not going to be there in a couple of years. So my thing is you're going to have to, you got to look long term. You really do. You got to look long term. Constantly rolling this tax rate back. No municipality, I'm gonna tell you straight up, most municipalities I know of do not take advantage, take advantage of the assessed value of the property taxes. Most of them do that because they know that everything is going up. We got to pay the same thing. All the expenses we have in the city is going up. Everybody, it isn't just you, it's me, everybody else. I pay taxes on 2 homes. I got to pay it twice, to the city. So I'm just saying that everything is going up. The trash has gone up, lights have gone up. We pay street lights. We haven't raised street lights in 20 years. We pay $36 a household assessment for street lights. So I'm just saying we haven't taken that up in 20 years. So, there are things that we have done that we didn't pass along to the citizen, which we could have through assessments. And I'm just saying, it isn't like we haven't given the citizens a break. We gave them a break last year during the height of COVID, and we need to realize that, sometimes it's sacrifices on both sides. They want the 24-hour police officers. You got to pay for them. You want your streets picked up. You want your trash picked up. We got to pay for that. So I'm just saying that it's a small sacrifice to make to maintain the quality of life in your community. I understand as seniors. I understand that. I know we have a whole lot of seniors. I understand that, but we also got to keep those seniors safe. We also got to keep them healthy by making sure that trash is picked up. So I'm just saying, we really need to look at this. But so I'm done. All right, thanks.
Thanks, sir. And one last point, so I go to Councilwoman Jones, is that it's not that we. My objective is that we have a surplus where the tax dollars that we get this year, we bank that to our surplus so that we could use it in maybe a future year. So it's not that we run at a deficit, but that we save that money and use the ARPA money as the revenue loss. But Councilwoman Jones.
Thank you, Council President. I'm not one for scare tactics either. And I realize that things are going up. But as far as this, I'll be transparent. As far as this piggyback tax, I'm seeing piggyback tax in 3 states, but I want to do some research on that to find out. And I want to see hopefully the our treasurer can show us where we lost this $117,000. Because looking at this budget, there's a lot of stuff in this budget that can be cut. It's just that. And we need to sit down as a council and take our time and go through that budget and see the areas that have been inflated for things that can be cut, and learn to live within our means and not with what we want, but within our means. Thank you.
Mr. President.
And more, I'm sorry, and just one more point. And more importantly, we're talking about $117,000. So all I'm asking is that we basically use the ARPA money to carry this burden of $117,000.
Since it's only going to be $2 a citizen, right?
Yeah, that's not a heavy burden for us to say, okay, well, let's not pass this burden to the citizens. Let's just carry the burden, use the ARPA funds to replace something in the operating budget so we don't have to raise taxes by $117,000. That's all that I'm saying. Councilwoman Fareed?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think that's the point. We need to look at the budget and figure out where we can cut, because I think we need to cut, if we can, the 117,000 and still use the ARPA funds for the purposes that we've designated them for. But I don't know what the proper order is, but has everyone voted? And are we, I think we're done with the vote. And I think the council clerk just needs to call it. I don't know, unless anybody else is planning on changing their vote.
Let me, Mr. President, let me just say this, because I just want to say, I'm not trying to give anybody scare tactics. I sat on this council where we were going to fire police officers, and I had to convince the council at that time to raise the tax rate up 2 cents to keep those 2 police officers. So it isn't scare tactics. It's real life. And everybody keeps on saying $117,000, but nobody's looking at the $500,000 that you're taking out of savings. So we are not being fiscally responsible, because we don't have a balanced budget, because we're plugging it with grant money and savings, and that's not responsible. You know, so my thing is, if you got the chance to get the revenue that you need to help offset some of the money that we're going to pull out of savings, because eventually savings is going to be gone. And nobody really truly knows how much we have left in savings, because we're looking at that, and we done already allocated, I know, probably close to $500,000 to almost $500,000 already out of ARPA money, or more than that. You know, so I'm just saying that, you know, we need to look at something that's going to be sustainable in the long run when we have to really look at this, because you're gonna double the taxes anyway when the money is gone. It's just that simple. Everybody keep on saying it's only $117,000. No, you really need to be cutting the budget by almost $500,000 and finding money that you don't finding a way to not have to use so much of a big chunk of your savings. But if you're going to use your savings for major projects, which we haven't even looked at, and I keep on trying to tell, you know what, I've already told council, when you get the assessment for how much it's going to cost to pave these streets, you're going to see that most of the ARPA money is going to go. Because I can tell you that just to pay the rest of Ward 3 is going to cost a pretty penny. And as for the piggyback tax, if people don't know about the piggyback tax and they have not looked at their tax bill by now, and you have a house, boy, you're really in for a rude awakening. Because Prince George County has one of the most craziest tax rates, and with Trim in place, they've tried to find every penny they possibly can, because they can only take the property taxes up so high. So if we taking up property taxes and they're taking up property taxes, they wait to see what our rate is, and that can tell them what they can take their property tax rate up. So that's what I'm saying. That's why they look at the county. So, you know, I just wanted to put that out there. All right, thanks. So
thank you, Councilman Herring. So is there anybody that is interested in changing their vote before we call it? Okay, then Ms. Jones, I'll come to you after we call the vote. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay. All right. So can you just before you finalize the vote, can you just recall where we lay with that?
Sir, Councilwoman Jones, no. Councilman Herring, yes. Councilman Hairston, abstain. Councilwoman Guillaume, abstain. Councilwoman Fareed, no. Vice President Ferguson, yes. President Curtis, no. So we have 2 yes, 3 no, 2 abstain.
Okay.
So suspend.
Final call.
Before we finish that, Mr. President, let me ask this question before we finish. Did y'all or did y'all not send the 34-cent rate down to the county for notices to be printed out?
Believe that
sent down
was
to the-
sent.
That was sent down to the county.
Yeah.
So once
so.
again, we're going to get back to the county and tell them, redo the notices again, and people going to get 2 tax bills.
We did that last year.
Yeah, and we shouldn't have. That was confusing. People got 3 tax bills last year. That was very confusing. So we went going out. So we sat here, we give them a rate, and then we come and we change our mind again. You know, I'm gonna tell you this: the county does do that as a favor to us. They don't have to do it. They can actually force us to print them out ourselves. But so we're going to notify the county tomorrow that the rate is going to
I'm sorry. I don't know if we sent an official notice. I think we notified them of what we thought we were going to do. Mr. Stewart can provide more insight on that briefly. Mr. Stewart, did we send a notice to the county?
Yes, we did send a notice to the county. As a matter of fact, after the vote last week, yes, we did send a note. And I also told them that it is tentative, but they have started to set up the bills for the 0.3481, because
But you told them it was
that's what was voted on in the previous meeting.
But you told them it was tentative, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilwoman Fareed, I'm sorry. I'll go to Councilwoman Jones. She's had her head up. Then I'll come to you, Councilwoman Fareed.
Council President, if it be admissible, Mr. Stewart.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. What is the surplus? What is in our savings? A tentative or not an actual, but what do we have in our savings?
So approximately, without the funds that we have for the American
ARPA?
Rescue Plan, we have over $7 million.
Thank you. That money needs to be spent.
All right, Councilwoman Guillaume.
Just point of clarification for Treasurer, for Mr. Stewart, is that $7 million with the $5 million subtracted from it, meaning it's 2 million? Should it be 5 million in the budget, or is that 7 million subtract with the 5 million already taken out?
I am not following the 5 million. Are you speaking
I'm sorry, the
about
500,000. I'm sorry, the
Okay.
500,000. I'm so sorry. It's a long night.
Okay.
The 500,000. I'm sorry, the 500,000 that we have in the budget. I'm sorry. So when you said 7 million, the 500,000 that we have currently in the proposed budget was the reserve 7.5, and then now it's 7, or like what is it?
I get you. So right now it's 7 million. With us taking the 500,000, it's gonna be 650. 6.5. Yes.
Got it.
Okay. I had an additional question. I reviewed the budget. It looks like that a big chunk of that change is not necessarily the operating budget, but it's really the capital budget where that money is coming out. So these are one-time projects. So the fact that we're going to have to continue to dig into our savings to cover operations is not really true, because most of that extra funding, that's fat, is actually in capital spending. And so we would not be taxed to keep on trying to use grant money to supplement it. Is that correct, Mr. Stewart?
Yes, that is true. For majority of the capital infrastructure changes and improvements, we are actually taking funds from reserves for that. So yes.
And based on our designation of revenue loss of our ARPA funds, we can actually use the ARPA funds to briefly support operations and use tax dollars to support the capital expenditures because we get to avoid the compliance issues from a federal level. But once those capital projects are done, then we revert back to our regular operating budget, which our current tax base can support.
What I could say to you is right now, operations has a surplus of $500, taking into consideration the revenues that will come from all our sources, including this increase in this 117,000 as well.
Okay, so our operating budget has a surplus of
$500.
And we factor in that $117,000 that we're voting not to collect. Okay. All right.
Mr. President, can I ask, because I need clarification on that. So Mr. Stewart, you're saying, so, okay, for operations, and that's the police, public works, everything that we have to do to run the government, has a surplus of $500.
Yes, and if we take out the 117, we will fall into a deficit.
A deficit. Okay, so basically right now, taking into consideration all the revenue that we get, not counting grants, not counting ARPA, not counting any of that, we're just barely breaking even on it with the tax dollars that we have coming in now.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's say we spend all our ARPA money, we spend all our grant money and all of that, and we have some catastrophic event pops up. How do we handle that? Because eventually all the ARPA money is going to be gone in 3 years. How do we handle that?
You see,
with
what
$500 surplus.
Yes, you see, what will happen is that we are eating into our reserves, especially for capital infrastructural improvement. If we continue to operate the way we are, only earning $500 to reserve, then sooner or later we will run into problems. And I would certainly recommend that we reconsider the 117,000 instead of leaving that with Prince George's County. We should actually tap into that fund and continue balancing off our budget. So right now we're just $500 in surplus.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Aaron and Mr. Stewart. And just for context, I'm only leaving this open just so that people can have all information to vote, since we haven't finalized the vote. But if there aren't any changes to the vote, which I do not see anybody raising their hand, then going once, going twice, Council Clerk, you can call the vote.
Okay. We have 2 yes, 3 no, 2 abstain. This is failed.
Thank you, Council Clerk. Mayor Cross, you had a comment.
Thank you. I really wanted to have that comment before you call the vote, just to add clarity to the piggybacking. The additional charges that you can expect the county to provide is also on the septic system. Many of us in Woodmore Town Center already pay annually for that new septic system, the water lines that they put in towards our property. You can expect that to go up. There's also some special area taxes that are used to pay for debt services on bonds and finances specifically for infrastructure improvement. And as Mr. Spayo put out, Woodmore Commons, Woodmore Overlook is putting in additional 600 homes, plus new industry, new businesses. They're definitely going to leverage those taxes back to you. So those are the significant infrastructure improvements that are just in our backyard. The recycling services of our front foot benefit change for your property, the collection that is connected to your water and those sewer lines. Those are special area taxes. The county is going to leverage that back because they're giving you a tax break in your the constant yield rate Those things are not accounted for in that particularly. So those are areas where you're going to see an increase, particularly, specifically from the county. And as Councilman Herring stated earlier, we have seen an increase in our taxes. And we did, as he stated earlier, not leverage back that trash collection increase, but with an increase now with Good as the only submitter right now for our trash contract, it's really a monopoly. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. With that, you know, I don't think that just because, you know, things are increasing across the board, we should increase too. But, you know, the vote is in. And Mr. Stewart, if you can contact the county and let them know that we're going with the, I recall the rate 3.33, the other rate.
Yes, the 0.3338. Yes.
And then now it's the council's job to really work on the budget and see how we're going to do this, which I believe we can. So, all right, with that, next on the agenda is the a motion to go into closed session. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Is there a second motion to go into closed session?
Second, I'm sorry.
Any discussion? Councilwoman Jones.
I think this is a last minute to go into closed session when all of the parties are not available or not here. I think we should send out availability to see when we're available to have this closed session concerning personnel. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Jones.
Mr. President. This is not a precedent. We've recently done it before when it's a closed session and we did not have the other person at the hearing that we had on personnel. When we discussed another employee, I'm not getting into the details of it, but they were not there. So it isn't like this is a precedence being set by Councilman Herring. It's been done plenty of times before. So.
Thank you, Councilman Herring. Any other discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk, could you run the roll call to go into a closed session, please?
Sir. Councilwoman Jones?
No.
Councilman Herring?
Yes.
Councilman Hairston?
Yes.
Councilwoman Guillaume?
Pass.
Councilwoman Fareed?
No.
Vice President Ferguson?
Same.
President Curtis?
Pass.
President Curtis, when you have a second.
Ms. Guillaume?
Abstain.
Is it me again?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So we have 4 yes, 2 no, 1 abstain. This is passed.
We don't have 4 yeses.
So Councilman Herring said yes, Councilman Hairston, I believe, Councilwoman Guillaume, was your answer
She
yes?
said abstain.
Okay, I'm sorry, my audio today. Okay, sorry. Councilwoman Fareed is no, and then you are yes. Okay, so this is failed.
Thank you. There were 3 yeses, 2 abstains, 2 noes.
Mr. President, I would like to ask that that the council be polled for a meeting to go into closed session sometime in the very near future.
Okay,
Thank you.
and a poll to go into a work session just because we need to do the budget anyway. So we could have a closed meeting before our work session. I'm sorry.
I mean, you ain't got to pick a date tonight. I mean, they can send out a poll whenever they see what the availability is of everybody.
Answering availability.
Yeah, it's tough to get responses on the thing. Councilwoman Fareed.
Yes, I would just like to ask that before we get polled or before we meet, that we get more information. I did see the email, but I'm not confident that I have enough information to really discuss it or take any action. So I think to Councilwoman Jones's point, we either need the other party or we at least need that perspective.
But neither of which I can give you if we're in open session.
No, I know, I understand that. I'm just asking that we have that from the other party prior to us having the meeting.
Normally she shoots out an email. I'm surprised she hasn't.
So is everybody available next Thursday, the 23rd? Anybody not available next Thursday, the 23rd? At, let's say 6:30 p.m. to go in closed session. And then have a work session right after that for the budget.
I should be okay, but I will double check, Council President. I don't know my schedule tomorrow, but
Okay.
I'll make the time.
Councilman Fareed, are you good?
Yes, that date works for me. Thank you.
Councilman Hairston?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why we couldn't do it around, but yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Council Vice President Ferguson?
Yes.
And Ms. Jones is always available.
No, wait a minute now, hold up. Now, I'm not, if I think in this meeting, they should also have both parties and the city manager. Are they going to be available? Send them an email to find out if they're going to be available.
I will check. And I was only saying that because you have been the consistent person who's replied to all of my.
Oh yeah, I understand. I know where you're coming from, but I just want to make
Okay.
in this one, I just want to make the point clear that we need to have the city manager and both parties.
Okay. All right. So for right now, we're set for next Thursday at 6:30 p.m. to go into closed session and then immediately go into a work session for the budget. All right. With that, the time is, unless everybody good. Okay. With that, the time is 9:13 and this budget hearing is now closed, over.
Everyone have a good night.
Thank you.